We always imagine disasters as something that will happen one day, in some far-off dystopian future. But what if I told you? They're already here. Right now. Under our noses. And we're all too busy scrolling through TikTok to notice. From toxic lakes to a high-security biolab sitting in the middle of cattle country, here are 10 disasters unfolding as we speak. Once upon a time, the Salton Sea was California's tropical paradise. A resort town full of boat parties and palm trees. But today, it looks like something straight out of a post-apocalyptic movie. The lake is drying up, and with it, it's leaving behind a toxic dust storm generator. That dust, it's got arsenic, pesticides, and whatever else has been dumped there over the years. And guess who's breathing it all in? The thousands of low-income families who can't afford to leave. Kids in this area? They've got some of the highest asthma rates in the nation. Some days schools literally tell students to stay inside because the air is so bad. But hey, out of sight, out of mind, right? And oh, how can I forget this little incident? Back in 2019, a massive bird die-off took place when thousands of migratory birds, including ducks and gulls, dropped dead after landing in the contaminated waters. The culprit? Avian cholera, a disease that spreads rapidly in overcrowded conditions. So, what's being done? Well, there are some restoration projects in the works, but unless something changes fast, the Salton Sea is on its way to becoming a dystopian wasteland, assuming it's not already there. I hope I haven't bored you so far because there's more. More disasters that could end us tomorrow, or, later. But who cares about timing when you've got a bunch of ticking time bombs right around us? So, let's move on to the next one. Picture this, a high-security lab designed to study the world's deadliest viruses. Seems like a good idea, right? Now imagine they built it right in the middle of cattle country. This is NBAF, the National Bio and Agro Defense Facility in Manhattan, Kansas. A place studying diseases like foot and mouth, a virus that could potentially wipe out the beef industry. And guess where they decided to build it? Right in the middle of millions of cows. A 2001 report warned that an outbreak could cause a $50 billion economic disaster. But naturally, the government thought, yeah, let's put the lab here anyway. If something goes wrong, we're looking at a disaster that could cripple the entire food supply. But don't worry, nothing could possibly go wrong, right? Carmel Mountain, California. A beautiful place to live if you don't mind the fact that it's literally moving. Scientists have been tracking shifts in the land, and guess what? A massive landslide could hit at any moment. The scary part? There are entire neighborhoods built on this unstable ground. And despite warnings, real estate prices here are still through the roof. Because who cares about geological disasters when you've got a great view? So, still with me? Good. Because we're about to dive into something much colder but equally terrifying. If you live anywhere near the coast, you might want to start practicing your backstroke. Because Thwaites Glacier, aka the Doomsday Glacier, is melting. And when it finally collapses, it could raise sea levels by several feet. Miami, New York, New Orleans, gone. Entire island nations, underwater. Scientists say this could happen sooner than expected, but we're too busy debating whether or not climate change is real to do anything about it. The Great Salt Lake is drying up. No big deal, right? Except it is, because just like the Salton Sea, it's leaving behind a toxic dust bowl. That dust contains arsenic, which, fun fact, is poisonous. And as it spreads, millions of people could end up breathing it in. Utah officials swear they're working on a solution. Meanwhile, the lake is shrinking faster than a cheap t-shirt in the dryer. Feeling safe yet? Oh, we're just getting started. Don't get too comfortable because next up, we've got an environmental disaster that's still leaking. In 2015, the Aliso Canyon gas leak became one of the biggest environmental disasters in U.S. history. It spewed tons of methane into the air, forced thousands of people to evacuate, and made everyone in the area sick. But here's the fun part. It's still leaking. And even after all these years, residents near the site are still reporting headaches, nausea, and other mysterious health issues. The company responsible says everything is fine. But then again, they also said the leak wasn't a big deal in the first place. California gets all the earthquake hype, but the real ticking time bomb? The Cascadia Subduction Zone, a 700-mile fault line stretching from Northern California to Canada that is way overdue for a megaquake. And when it finally snaps, we're talking about a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, followed by a massive tsunami that could wipe out entire cities along the coast. Seattle, Portland, Vancouver, gone. FEMA estimates that when this thing hits, it could be the worst natural disaster in North American history. Now, if you're thinking, wait, isn't this basically San Andreas the movie? Yes, you're right. Except, instead of The Rock swooping in to save us with his hero moves and jawline, we're all just kind of here waiting for the ground to shake. And no, it won't be as easy as pressing a button to make it all go away like in the GTA San Andreas. So, no, there's no magical escape route to safety. Sorry about that. The best part? Scientists have been warning about this for decades. Where did I see that? Anyway. But of course, preparing for a literal apocalypse isn't as fun as arguing about coffee orders on Twitter, so here we are. The Mississippi River, America's second longest river, the backbone of trade, and the reason Mark Twain had a career, is vanishing. And with it, so is the water supply for millions of people. The river's water levels are at historic lows, which is a nightmare for farmers, businesses, and well, anyone who enjoys having water to drink. Shipping barges are getting stuck, food prices are spiking, and entire ecosystems are collapsing. And what's the solution? Some experts are suggesting pumping water from the Great Lakes to keep the Mississippi flowing, because if there's one thing we've learned from history, it's that moving massive amounts of water from one place to another always goes well. The Amazon. It's called the lungs of the earth, but if you've been following the news, you'd know those lungs are getting a little wheezy. Deforestation is happening at a record rate, and with it, a loss of biodiversity that's creating a massive environmental crisis. The Amazon isn't just the home of all those cute animals and plant species, it's also critical for absorbing CO2 and producing oxygen. If it keeps disappearing at this rate, we're not just losing trees, we're losing one of the planet's best defenses against climate change. So, yeah, no big deal. And how to forget Yellowstone, America's favorite national park. Gorgeous, right? Geysers, wildlife, and a whole lot of tourists snapping selfies. But what most people don't know is that Yellowstone sits on top of one of the largest supervolcanoes in the world. A supervolcano that could literally wipe out life as we know it. Yeah, no big deal, it's been a few 100,000 years since the last eruption, so what are the odds it erupts anytime soon? Oh wait, scientists say it could erupt again at any moment, and when it does, we're talking about a global catastrophe. Ash clouds, blocked sunlight, volcanic winters. Basically, Earth could turn into a giant freezer, so enjoy those selfies while you can. So, just a quick recap. We got toxic air, disappearing lakes, a doomsday glacier, an underground gas leak that never ends, and an earthquake that could send half the west coast into the ocean. But hey, why worry? Everything's fine. Probably. What do you think? Which of these disasters freaks you out the most? Drop a comment, hit like. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and as always, until next time, stay curious.